Hey guys, it's Minius. About a week ago, we had another leak as far as Mass Effect Andromeda is concerned, and the reason I didn't jump on this sooner, well, there's two reasons. The first is, a lot of the stuff in the leak wasn't really all that major, but the second is, I'm not convinced that this is a genuine leak. Now, for those of you who aren't crazy about following Mass Effect rumors and stuff, you may not know what I'm talking about, so here's a little background information. There was somebody who claims to have an early copy of the game, and they sent information about what they're playing to the YouTube channel Antarctic Wildlife, who posted a video on it, although that information didn't come with video or screenshots, so who really knows if this is true. In fact, the guy narrating the video about the leak kind of goes out of his way to convince people that this may not be genuine, so I found that pretty strange. At the end of this video, I'll post a link to that video so you can decide for yourself, and I'm not going to go over those points point by point because I'm not really interested in directly copying somebody's video, but I'm going to talk about the things I thought were interesting or potentially major and discuss whether or not I think they're genuine and how awesome or not awesome they would be. So the thing I found most interesting was how you navigate from place to place. In the original Mass Effect, you had a galaxy map. According to this person, you don't have that in this game. You actually control the ship and fly it to where you want to go. And if you need to go to a faraway star, you can engage the FTL drive and take off towards that place. At first glance, this sounds awesome. Really, it may not be all that useful, but the idea of taking a ship and flying it to wherever you want to go in the galaxy is just great. But there are some issues here, and really a lot more questions that come up. The biggest thing you need to consider when you think about this is that space is vast. You can't just get in a ship and fly wherever you want to go to. In the original Mass Effects, they had a little map of each system, and you could kind of fly your plane around or scroll over depending on which one, and it was very quick. If you want to fly around any system, it would take forever. So in order for this to work, you would need some kind of awesome interface. Perhaps there's a heads-up display that shows each star, gives it a name, lets you know what's in it, lets you know whether it's worth going to, and then you can press your FTL button after you aim at it and take off towards that system. You would need something similar for planets though. For instance, if you're just flying around this system, you can look up in the sky and see Jupiter, but it takes you forever to get there, and you would really want some kind of faster than light drive to get there. So you would need this kind of interface and this kind of system for this to work at all. One thing to consider when talking about this is that the leak source pretty much only said that you can circle around a planet and look at different places to land, which isn't all that interesting. In fact, it's not all that different from the scanning mechanic when you had multiple missions on a single planet. But hopefully it's something more than that, if this is real at all. And I've got no evidence that this is real, but I do really want it to be real. This could be a very scaled down version. It could have been an original idea that you want to be able to fly your ship everywhere that you want to go, but it's not very practical. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, but as I said in the beginning of this little statement here, I think this idea is awesome. Now, the second thing of note is that there is going to be a human antagonist, or at least one of the antagonists is going to be human. This certainly is possible. This human is supposed to be a soldier like you, but not N7 recognized or N7 designated or something like that. But I'm not very excited about this concept. I'm certainly not excited about traveling all the way to Andromeda just to fight another human. It's strange to me. There certainly have to be a lot of other groups you can fight, groups that would consider you to be an invader as you're trying to settle in their region of space. Those people would have a legitimate gripe with you because they could see those lands around them as theirs. Those make for compelling bad guys already. Guys that aren't necessarily terrible in the first place, but want to take you out because you are encroaching on their lands. If this is true, this also brings up another interesting point, because you're supposed to be finding a new home for humanity. So why would a human try to stop you from finding a new home for humanity? That doesn't make any sense. Unless he's crazy, or there's a faction of humans that are trying to set up their own colony in conflict with you. There are lots of issues here. I certainly don't really want this to be true, although I can see it being true, but I would much prefer to take on new aliens and new enemies. Something that goes hand in hand with this concept, and this is getting the most play, at least in the media outlets that are talking about it, is that Cerberus makes an appearance in this game. Or at least the new aliens that you can see here, that were in the announced trailer, drop from Cerberus ships during gameplay. Huh. That's weird. I'm not really all that fond of having Cerberus in the game for the same reasons I'm not all that fond of having the Reapers in the game. We've had a long Cerberus story. That was great. But if this is true, it just feels like they're rehashing Cerberus because it's a familiar enemy. I don't think this is necessary. As I mentioned in the previous little bit, I think there are plenty of new enemies to take on. Now, before we get too much into why is Cerberus doing this, there's a very legitimate possibility here, is that these aliens that are dropping from Cerberus ships are doing so because the developers haven't finished designing their actual ships and have the old Cerberus ships on file and are using them as a placeholder. This makes the most sense to me by far. It certainly would be very, very odd for aliens from another galaxy to be teaming up with Cerberus, or for Cerberus to want to team up with aliens in the first place. It doesn't fit their MO at all. I know they've kind of tampered with Reaper tech in the past, and they've made crazy looking Reaper creatures, but still doesn't fit with their MO. So hopefully it is the placeholder, or this is just outright false. Something else that was mentioned, and it's tough to get a good grip on this because there really isn't a whole lot of information here, is it appears that every single race that's in Andromeda that was in the Milky Way is looking for their own home, which seems to imply that this is not a unified colonization attempt. So perhaps they're all going there on their own to try to find their own home, which is interesting. But there's a big problem with this, is that this game is supposed to take place in a single cluster of Andromeda, which makes up, as I said in a previous video, this percentage of the entire galaxy. Now, the chances of every single race setting off from the Milky Way to Andromeda and landing in this spot is beyond astronomical. It's just not going to make sense. It doesn't work. Of course, if you're writing a piece of fiction, you can overcome these odds. Perhaps they're using a single piece of tech that they found there that all shoots them off to the same location, and because there are no mass relays, they can't travel far from there. But there are issues here. Who knows if this is real? I kind of doubt it. You can kind of see with these last couple points that I've made in this leak why I doubt this leak overall. But these things could be true. The final little thing has to do with squad mates. Apparently the two squad mates that this person was playing with, one was Krogan, that could be Drac, the other was a blonde woman, that might be Cora. In a previous video I thought that Cora might be Asari, but it certainly would work if she is human. Now I'm speculating on speculation. I have no idea if any of this stuff is true. There's no way to verify it. Now, if you want to look for yourself, here's a link to that video that I'm talking about here. Certainly it's worth checking out. You can decide for yourself whether or not it's genuine or not. I think there are some issues here, but what do I really know? I've only been doing this for a couple months. I don't know what genuine leaks look like. The ones that are big, I generally think go with major media outlets, at least major video game media outlets. So this was an odd one, this was an obscure one, and I'm not convinced this is real. But anyway, if you like this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel. Keep an eye on MiniusGC for more Mass Effect videos, but for now,
I should go.